with a loud screech and groan. The off-kilter portcullis slams into the ground as the fighter dusts off his hands, turns around. It was stuck, but you were able to make enough room to make yourself under the rusted points of the portcullis and into this dilapidated Fey complex of some type. It takes a moment for your eyes to adjust to the dark, so you hear it rather than see it first. The sound of moving water, not rushing, not a stream, not a river, but the gentle lap of a pool. As your eyes adjust to the darkness, there's the cloying smell of old mildew. Everything in this cavern is wet and sticky underfoot. The dark greens and blacks of mold and all sorts of unsavory things you realize you're breathing in. And at the center of this room, you see a waist-high wall. It's circular. A well, a pool. And beyond it across, a wooden door. Ajar. And through it, only darkness you can see at this point. Your torches sputter. And you draw closer to the center of the room. The water moves. More, you can hear it. You stealth closer. Give me the roll. 17. It's just not quite good enough. And the water roils and bursts forth from the well, and out of it, the bony maw, long dagger teeth and fangs of an undead Fey well cobra. Roll initiative. So, that is a little sneak peek of my random dungeon delving chamber for solo play. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. If you wanted to see what we were looking at, drawing that inspiration from, here we go. Mildewed Feywell, DC 19, giant undead Fey cobra in the well, and once they defeat it, they'll find 78 silver pieces glittering at the well's bottom. It's a deep dive, though. A DC 19 athletics check to get down there and get the loot and come back up. If you're game. Of course, you might drown, and who knows in the darkness of the well what else might be down there. Across the room, of course, was the ajar wooden door that we saw. And behind this, the way in, our exit and entrance for this little dungeon, a stuck portcullis. And there were no secrets to be found in this room. So this is the little preview of the iterative dungeon crawling I've been kind of working on. So I've put together a template. It's not perfect yet. I'm still trying to figure out a little bit of the noodly bits between how chambers connect and how large to make the chamber and how to go through it in a way that's going to feel satisfying. But this is, I wanted to share sort of the basic chamber templates because I think these are really cool. You can look down here. That's exactly what we're doing. So influence on the dungeon chamber, that was our Fey bit in the example above. Our dressing, I rolled and ended up getting a strong smell, so I decided to go with mildew because I knew that this was going to be, what chamber type was it? It was a well or cistern. We have a mildewed Fey well. Boom. Perfect. 3 rolls. Cool little thing. And the DC, well, if you've watched my video about sort of 2d6 tables, you've known how I come up with those DCs. I can just roll it right there, adjust it plus or minus 3 if I think it's a hard or easy check. That sort of thing. That's pulled from ICRPG. Very cool. I really enjoy the sort of room DCs, that the 1 DC per room. So that same DC to stealth up to the well is the same DC we're going to use for diving into the well and getting those silver pieces out of it. So very fun to do that. It would have been the same DC we probably used for the portcullis. To lift the portcullis. Maybe not, it's the entrance, so might have been different. But yeah, having that one sort of DC, it's very clear what you need to do. Things are really kind of difficult in this chamber. And then the chamber contents itself, we also covered this in the 2d6 video, rolling for it. So in this one, I ended up rolling a pretty sizable monster. One creature, a pretty nasty creature, so this giant undead cobra. Which I think is, I would change, instead of doing poison damage, it's going to do like some sort of, to make it more fey, like some sort of psychedelic condition, maybe cause fear, or some hypnotic pattern, or something like that. I'm going to pull like a different sort of spell effect, or something like that, to kind of give it this weirdness to it, to really push that fey bit of poisoning. So it's not just the poison condition or just take extra damage. So something else kind of cool and interesting to happen on that they're not going to be expecting. And then, right, we have some light treasure, 78 silver pieces at the bottom, if they want to go down and get it. It's perfectly open. It's not a trick. It's not a trap. They can swim down there and get it. That's quite a bit, so it's not going to be super easy to do. That's why we're going to have the athletics check to get it all. And if they fail that, I might only give them some of the treasure. And then we've got our exits for the room. So across the way, we have a ajar wooden door. It's going to be able to go through. So it's open. We can only see in the darkness, though, from our perspective. And then behind us, we have the stuck portcullis. Super easy. Influence, dressing, chamber type. I didn't add size here. When I originally rolled it up, it does have a size. It's 30 by 20. But if I'm running solo, I'm typically not going to need to know the size of the chamber, because really the only thing I need to know is, hey, is it within 30 feet for spellcasting? Is it within 60 feet for spellcasting? And 120 feet for spellcasting and or movement. Right, knowing whether, if it's within 30, can I move up and hit it with the stick if I need to, or use a ranged attack from here? If it's 60 feet, do I have to spend the whole dash action to get there? And then is that sort of a far range, so I can't use my 30-foot spells, or I'll be in my long range for things like my sling and stuff like that. And if it's 120 feet, like, hey, do I really need to spend like multiple dash actions? Is there some sort of cover I can hide behind? And maybe we can just take ranged attacks at extreme disadvantage and let them close the distance with us, kind of depending on our party makeup and what's going on. 30-foot, relatively small room. It's got this giant well in it. It's got the cobra coming up out of the well. So I'm going to be able to strike at probably just about anybody within this room. That's sort of my idea. As far as solo going, a giant cobra is not going to have any problem reaching anybody in this room. It's very cool. So that's sort of the basics are, and then there's whether there are any secrets or exits in the room that go sort of outside the dungeon, or maybe give us some little extra treasure or clues or something we can find in there. This is sort of the template I'm working off of. Everything's kind of spread out right now. I might make a consolidated document for our upcoming dungeon crawl, our Goblin, Orc, Gnoll, Confederation, Desert Oasis. So to make it a little bit more cohesive, because right now I've got these tables that I'm using are spread across multiple documents and multiple pages on multiple documents. But I did want to kind of show you how this would kind of work, how it's kind of working right now to just do it randomly. So let's say we went through that ajar wooden door. Mildewed Feywell. So that's what's back behind us. So just want to get that out of the way first. Okay, what is this room? So I have 1d20 that I'm going to use, and I'm going to use... I kind of said it was Natural Cavern, so let's assume it's Natural Cavern, so I'm going to roll 2d20, and it's a well, so maybe this is sort of like a complex, a place where people used to live. So I'm going to use 2d20, and then off of the list that I have, there are 20 entries for different chamber types. I'm going to choose the one that feels the most useful for that, for like a complex where people lived. So I rolled a 3 and a 5, so on my chart that's either an armory or a captive area. This is sort of like, as far as we can tell, it's sort of the outside, and it's got the well, it had the big portcullis, had the big bay river snake, well snake that was in it. So yeah, maybe this is sort of like the armory, the sort of like guard room. We'll say it that way. It's sort of a guard room. And then we have undead and we have fey influence going on, so I'm just going to roll a d6. If it's high, it'll be fey. That's 5. Again, so it's going to be a fey guard room. It's just kind of giving us the feel. So if it was undead, there'd be like a lot of bodies or something in that. It's just kind of some flavor for us. So it's a fey guard room. And then we want some miscellaneous. I'm just going to roll a d20 for some dungeon dressing. I rolled a 5, and we'll roll one more. And a 2. Great. And then I just go to my dungeon dressing, basically, tables. So I have a d20 and a d100. The d100's from the Pathfinder Game Mastery Guide, the first edition of Pathfinder. So you can go grab that if you want. And so I just convert it So 2 algae, cobwebs, lichen, that sort of stuff. 5 slippery, damaging, difficult, or impassable pathing. Let's go with Fey. Since this is Fey, I'm gonna say some sort of plant growth. Plant growth sounds really good. And 2, so that would be a 10. Bones is good. Oh, and a bell. Yeah, let's do that. So there's a giant bell. So this is gonna be sort of like a vine-covered Fey guard room with a giant alarm bell. So if we roll some sort of trap, or it could be an alarm trap, or it could just be people in it, depending on what sort of we roll up. Alright, do we need to know the size? I'm going to roll a d12 just because I don't need to know the size, I just want to know. Well, I can roll a d6, it's easier. A d6 is going to be 30, 60, 120. 30, okay. Small chamber. That'll just kind of give us an idea that everything's kind of within a move. And what's actually in here? So we're going to roll 2d6. I'll use this because we've got it up. Alright, 3. So then we know that that's some sort of hot and a creature. Alright, so we got a creature. So what do you think? This is vine covered. Maybe it's reclaimed by nature. I think there's probably a 50-50 shot whether this is going to be a hazard or obstacle or a trick or trap. I rolled an 8, so it's a trick or trap. I feel very safe to be like this is an alarm trap. And then I can use my 1d4 to tell me what the sort of trigger is. So I got a 2. Again, I use these random improvised traps and hazard tables. Pressure or touch. We didn't roll any treasure, so it's not going to be like a treasure Indiana Jones kind of thing interaction. So maybe it's a old-fashioned floor trigger. And we need to do our DC. So of course we roll our 2d6. And we're going to add one more. Ooh, that's 15 coming out the right. So 17. So it's gonna be a DC 17 room. That feels fine. I think that feels appropriate. And then we need a creature. So I'm kind of thinking we have the undead, we have the Fey. So let's just see. Undead. I rolled low. So some sort of skeleton warriors. It's not. Is it verdigris? Trying to remember some vocabulary. Yes. I did remember something. So in sort of like rusted bronze armor, it's got that sort of green copperish sort of rust on it, the verdigris. So yeah, so we've got that. We've got the floor pressure plate they can do. And then we need some entrances and exits. We're just going to roll a d6. Go around clockwise. So there's going to be a way forward. There's going to be a way to our left. There's going to be a way down. So these early chambers usually have a whole bunch. Okay. Left, straight, and down that we need to add. And then I just roll on my little doorway tables, which is D8 and a D6. Kind of figure out what they're going to be. 8. Ooh. It's a magic or puzzle door that is closed. So it's not open. Magic or puzzle? Puzzle. Okay. Kind of hard to do those with a solo RPG. So if I was doing this solo RPG, it's not going to be like a real puzzle. It's going to be like a skill check kind of door to figure out. And then if we go, what's across us? What's straight across from us? So a closed wooden door. And it may help to bold these, probably. So that was straight. No, we have down. 8 and 5. Wow, that's going to be another sort of magic or puzzle door. Interesting. We'll just roll again. And it is... Oh, it's stuck. Interesting. So it's a stuck magic door. So you can kind of interpret that however you want. So maybe the magic's not working correctly. Like we already said, it's kind of a dilapidated sort of entrance. So the magic door is stuck somehow. Maybe it's supposed to reset with the trap, right? You push the alarm trap down. Maybe it brings up the magic thing, but now the magic's kind of wonky, so now it's just kind of always up. We have to figure out how to get it down. Maybe it's a magical barrier that we have to attack. Maybe it's some sort of arcana or dispel that we can do on it, or knock would be another good option. So a lot of sort of options are available for the group, or maybe they can figure out some sort of physical way to deal with it. I'm making a challenge, it's an obstacle, so it's very open to sort of interpretation. There's not one finite solution. So anything that the players can put their heads together and think about and kind of throw anything out. And this is one of those things, is that if I'm running this for a group of players and I feel like, oh, they're taking a lot of time with this and they're starting to get kind of circular in their arguments about what to do, then they start rolling for random encounters. I just pick up my die. Oh, well, didn't roll a 1. And usually that'll pull people's attention out. And they'll be like, oh, the DM's rolling, we better make a decision. We better just try something or figure out a different way to go. So they might end up going back and choosing a different door. Right, they might decide, oh, I can't go through this stuck magic door, so maybe through... Well, this other one's got some sort of magic or skill on it, so maybe we'll just go through the straight closed wooden door. Just keep moving. Which is what we want to do from the DM's perspective. It's like I'm just rolling dice to keep them making forward progress so they don't get kind of stuck by their own sort of circular arguments because they're not quite sure what to do. Then I'm just going to kind of give them a little push. Just keep the feet moving. Get in some direction. You'll figure out how to come back and open this up, or some other way it's going to connect back to this room, or you're going to figure out what the solution is. And then I just roll a nice little 1d20 for secrets and exits. If I roll a natural 20, there's a secret. If I roll a natural 1, there's an exit to the outside. One of these doors connects to the outside. Well, I didn't roll either one of those, so all of these are rooms that we're going up against. So yeah, that's it. I just kind of wanted to show you guys what this kind of looks like. So this is sort of the setup. If we wanted to do another intro for like the one I did before, you guys peer through the, let's say, just kind of picking it. The rogue peeks through the ajar doorway into sort of the gloom below. You can just barely make out sort of through without bringing your torch to bear. There seem to be vines all over stuff, and you see sharp points, or at least they used to be sharp points. They see spears their tips covered in something, and then as you guys bring in the light, you'll be able to see it's not poison or anything like that, that it's actually this verdigris. And you see a number of sort of skeletons lounging around. I could also roll the d10 to determine, what the skeletons are doing when you're popping in, because they might actually be doing something, but probably not. No, I rolled a 5 on my monsters pre-battle, which is leisure, and I think leisure for skeletons is just kind of laying in a death pose, so that they are at rest. You see, oh, there's bones, armored warriors, skeletons of armored warriors on the ground. And of course, every D&D player knows if you see skeletons with anything of any sort of arms or weapons on them, they're obviously going to animate and attack you. They'll deal with that, but if they rush in there to maybe get an early sneak attack or something like that, they are going to maybe hit that trap floor. Maybe the floor, maybe they don't wake up until somebody messes with them or somebody hits a pressure plate to the alarm that wakes them up. That alarm may also let monsters and creatures further on in the dungeon behind many of these doors now be aware that a party of adventurers is moving through the dungeon. Be like, alright, so you're sneaking in? Go ahead and give me a perception check. See if you see this. You spot this thing. Ooh. Actually, if you weren't looking for it, I might not at this point. Either way, so either that was going to be a failed perception because I rolled a 4 on the die, or maybe not. Dexterity save. Ooh, 18 on the die. So they see it. The rogues kind of tiptoeing in, and they feel as they're sort of testing the flagstones that one of them starts to move under their foot, and they quickly bring it back. That's definitely a pressure plate. And so maybe they hop over, and now everybody else needs to make a very, let's say, easy athletics check to sort of stay around it. I mean, I'm not even sure. -3 probably doesn't seem like enough, or I'd give them advantage on it. That would probably be easier than changing the DC. And everybody probably passed for the most part. And even if they fail, they might not fail on it immediately. They might be, well, as you guys get in there and start looking at things, you forget that it's back there, and one of the characters takes a step back and steps on the plate, and then clangs on the alarm, and then skeletons get up, or they're messing with the skeletons and the skeletons get up, whichever way. We have ourselves probably a little fight. I don't think we need to worry about being undead. We don't really need to worry about their reaction roll. We assume that the undead they crave life force and to destroy life. They are evil beings, I guess. As much as they're beings, they're more constructs. Destroy that, destroy them. We have this vine-covered Fey guard room, so maybe they can climb up some vines to get away from the skeletons and not let the skeletons climb if they need to do that. They want some clever way to get around it. Or an enterprising character can grab some vines and wrap up the skeletons or something fun like that. Or maybe they chop them down and light them all on fire. Though green plant life doesn't burn very well. It's very smoky, so probably not a great idea. But it could be dead. We didn't say that they were alive vines. Maybe a luck roll. Let's give it a luck roll. That's high on the luck roll. So yeah, these are primarily dead vines because it's very dark in here, so they're not getting a lot of source of light. Hit them with that firebolt or some other sort of flame spell, lighting them on fire. They could take a little extra fire damage. The skeletons do. Lots of fun, but it's also smoky in here, and maybe that's gonna be a detriment for them. Now that they've lit a giant fire in a small enclosed space. Might figure out where to go from there. So yeah, that's how I'm kind of setting up these random encounters. They're these sort of random dungeon chambers as we sort of do it, and so that way I can do a more iterative dungeon crawl. Whether I'm doing it for my friends, right? I can make it kind of with this a dungeon on the fly. The only thing I really need to worry about is the size of dungeon I want to make, and sort of the reasons for going in there. Usually we'll have that reason already. Like, that's why our players showed up at the dungeon, right? Because they were looking for something specific in there, maybe, or just loot in general. We do that, and then I kind of figure out how long do we want to be in the dungeon, and kind of assume about 4.5 rooms per session. So if I wanted to take maybe 3 sessions of standard 3 to 4 hour session, which is about 1 room every 45 minutes or so, I can be like, oh, well, we want to do 3 sessions, so that's 4.5, so maxing out somewhere between 12 and 15, so maybe 13 to 14 is probably a good number, depending on kind of how far we go along, but that's kind of the sweet spot we're looking for. And then I know how to build the dungeon, and then once we start hitting dead ends, we're no longer looking for specific rooms, we're only looking for secrets and exits. Once we hit our sort of maximum number of chambers that we're one look at for that dungeon, based off the size we went. But yeah, that's everything. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you like this, and you can use it for your own, either that solo dungeon crawling, or if you're running for friends in a very standard sort of D&D fantasy-esque dungeon crawler, you can do that and do it this way too. Lots of fun, very simple, kind of pull it together. Using the charts that you have that kind of allow you to do some dungeon dressing, kind of tell you what the room's about, how difficult the room is, and then what's in the room as far as obstacles are concerned, and if there's any treasure in the room, and then sort of where it branches off in different paths. I hope you enjoyed it and you use it. If you want to see more of this, we're about to do kind of a dungeon crawl in the solo RPG series streams, so catch those. Those are coming up very soon, at least at the time of recording this. Check in. I think I'm going to do maybe 3 sessions. I don't hold me to that, but I think I'm going to kind of focus on that sort of 3 sessions of a dungeon crawl, because I kind of want it to be bigger than most of the dungeon crawls we've done at this point, because we've only kind of done 2. So that's sort of our plan. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. All right? Bye.